I am your host Pratap, and we will be taking the journey of understanding what IT leaders talk about. The entire series will be based on their experiences, real life experiences, how they have done it, and what will be the new learning for all of us. Let us join and take this journey forward. Hello everyone. I welcome you all in our debut episode, and today we have our special guest Arun Gupta, who is my friend and have been in the industry since last 40 years. I think all of you are very much aware of him. He has been a strategist, design thinker, and he has been converting opportunities into the business. He has been working in the industry for last 40 years and has a mammoth experience in all the industries, including pharmaceuticals, logistics, and many more. He worked with companies like Pfizer and Sopostopes and Cipla. Today, we are going to discuss on the topic of the winning the budget proposals, and he has a mammoth experience in it. It is not that he has been only a CIO or CTO for last 40 years, but he also been working as an independent director since last 8 years, and also he has started his own organization company for last 8 years. Today, let us understand from him that how do we take this proposal as a winning for the CIO and CTOs. So Arunji, welcome to you in our show.
Thank you, Pratap.
So Arunji, before we get down to nitty-gritty of the proposal writing, I will ask you that how actually we have been doing in our older days when actually you started your career. You remember our days when all these proposal writings, getting to the boardrooms were all manual. Today the situation has changed, scenario has changed, technology has evolved around, and automation has taken place. But when actually we started, that time it was purely manual. So how do you see this change from that day to today?
So, if we go back in time and look at how things were happening 20, 30 years back, I remember my first time I had to make a proposal to the board. We were using slides where we would write with a marker pen and then we would use a projector to project it. It was a lot of effort. At the same time, the messaging was not complete because you can only write that much in a slide. At the end of it, I think what mattered was the conversation that we had with the board, the way we presented whatever we had to, and then finally, was the board convinced with our story? If you look at what is happening today, everything is automated, like you said. You can make wonderful presentations using all kinds of tools, but at the same time, it is important that when we are presenting to the board, we are able to connect with them, because without the connection, it doesn't matter how beautiful your slide is, it will never get approved.
So Arun, do you remember that you were preparing the budget proposal in Excel sheet, or actually you were drawing in the paper and then presenting to the board?
We did have something similar to Excel. It was called Lotus 123.
Yeah, I remember it.
And you do everything there, but then you'll take a printout and send it to the board, because the ability to present it online or using some kind of a projection was not as good as it is today. Having said that, there wasn't really any kind of a tool for presentations. So I don't remember using charts in those days, but yes, it was more about what I was wanting to say and how was it getting presented to the board.
Arunji, I remember when actually I started in my career, I remember that actually we were putting all our budget, departmental budget in Excel sheet. and it was going for the approval in a variety of stages, where the CFO was playing a major role because we are all liable, answerable to CFO what actually we are planning for, but we are all doing in the Excel sheet. Today the scenario has changed, as you rightly said. The automation has taken place, but I think the process remains the same in the boardroom.
So the answer to your question, Pratap, is that it varies from organization to organization. I've been fortunate in many of my companies where I was not reporting to the CFO, and the CFO was not the custodian of the IT budget. I had direct visibility into the board. I was able to interact with them, present to them. There were also companies where the CFO would take all that information and then present it to the board. In most of those cases, I didn't really know what conversation happened, and sometimes there was a loss of the information between what I told the CFO versus what actually got presented to the board. But I remember my first board presentation way back in '94, so probably I started working a lot earlier than you did. I was not really presenting anything. There was a handout given to the board to say this is what we want to achieve in the next 3 to 5 years. I had some forward-looking statements. I had some practical and tactical projects that I wanted to do. The board listened to me for about half an hour. They didn't ask any questions, which was surprising because I was expecting them to challenge me on everything that I was saying, question me on why do we need to spend so much money. Interestingly, the chairman of the board at that point of time said, Arun, good story. How are you going to execute this? So what he was looking for at that point of time was to understand, if we give you so much of money that you're asking for, what's going to be the benefit to the organization? How is it going to impact the working of people in the organization? How is it going to impact the customers of the organization? And where is the team who's going to execute it and then subsequently support it? That got me thinking to say, yes, my story was great, but then it needed a little more depth in terms of how this is going to make a difference, not just to the IT organization's ability to provide systems, but also how is it going to impact the rest of the organization, the stakeholders of the organization. I asked him for some time and I said, I'm going to come back to you with a detailed note on what will be the impact on every metric that you would want to measure. So please help me understand what are the metrics that you would like to look at coming out of IT initiatives.
That's great to know, Arunji, from your experience, what actually gone through. I remember the proposal making process when actually we were all making that IT used to make the proposal and it was being accepted or whatever being discussed in the boardroom. But today the dynamics have changed. Today every department is giving the requirement to the IT as a central agency for the organization. They collect all the information from various departments and then they actually prepare it, because today IT is the catalyst of the organization. Without IT, the organization cannot even move forward. And what you said is how it was being done. The KPIs is driven not only by the IT but also by the department themselves. And that is how the winning the entire proposal for the organization is very essential for the IT. So how do you think that the making the proposal as a winning success story is the real success for the IT to make it in the boardroom?
I would probably put a slight twist to what you said. It is no longer about IT proposals. It is about organizations' decision to move in a certain direction, where each department contributes towards its success. I think about a decade back in my role as a CIO, I stopped making IT budgets. I would sit with the business organizations and say, okay, this is where we are right now. What do you
Correct.
want to do in the future?
Yeah.
Where do you want to take the business? What are the efficiencies that you want to create? How do you want to connect to your customer? What are your key drivers for the business? Is it only about top line, bottom line, or are there any other metrics that you would be looking at? And If I go back to my story, when I started my first board proposal, I was given a list of 6 different KPIs that ideally should be part of any proposal, not just IT proposal, but any proposal. And that was a learning for all of us on the management team. The first was, how are we going to impact the top line of the organization, the revenue of the company? Second, how are we going to improve the profitability of the organization? It could come from various types of initiatives. It could be internal efficiency, it could be automation. Third, how does it impact my customers? Do they see any kind of a positive change? Do they see any change at all? Fourth, how does it impact my employees? Because employees need to finally see the benefit of everything that is getting invested on the technology front. The fifth, is it required by the regulator or the law? Is this something that is going to be done for compliance? And finally, the most important, does it give the organization a differentiated capability in the market? Which is what most companies end up calling strategic projects, where it is not about changing what is already there in the organization, but creating something new, a new way of doing business, a new way of interacting with customers, a new way of going to the market.
That is great point, Arunji, to know from you. And I think you have elaborated very well about how actually the entire dynamics, the entire landscape of the organization has to be taken care of. Not only the technology, but also the business processes from the each and every department required to be collated before actually present to the board. So, in your experience, do you think that there will be something which is must have to be there in the proposal, something who must not actually go to the proposal itself?
Interesting point, Pratap. I think what you're referring to is what should be included in the proposal and what should be excluded from the proposal. I don't think there is any one answer that works for every proposal that you're presenting. Take an example, and I'll take something from my past. If you're going to be probably talking about only the infrastructure, the back office of the IT, investments going into servers, networks, etc., probably a line item to say what is it that you are going to procure matters, but not necessarily relevant to the level of detail that IT organizations want to go into to justify whatever they are going to be buying. But what is definitely important there is to say, once we do this upgrade or change or replacement, how is it going to benefit the organization? I'll give an example. In one of my organizations, we had very, very old switches within the organization. And I went to the board and said, we need to spend so much money to replace all the switches because they're end of life, they have outlived their usefulness. And my CEO said, yes, I think it is to be done because the business is going to be impacted should any of these fail. But the CFO was not convinced. And he said, Arun, what kind of switches cost so much money? And I'm saying, okay, let me help you understand what the switch actually is. It is not the switch that we're going to use to put on of the lights in this room. But the switch ensures that everyone in the organization stays connected to the network. And then I took him around to the data center and I showed him what a switch actually looks like. He came back saying, okay, go ahead, do it. So in this case, it was about educating the stakeholder to understand what it means. But most people wouldn't even care about some of that back-end infrastructure. In another case, we were trying to sell a HR system to the board to say, we are now a 5,000 people company, we need a good HR system. Yeah, right now what we have is a payroll system, don't necessarily have something for employee self-service, manager self-service, or for that matter, formal appraisal system. The HR head had earlier tried to sell the system and it was rejected because it was seen as a very large expense. When she came to me and said, Arun, I need to be able to sell this to the board and this is critical for the organization, I said, okay, let's go through the proposal step by step. When I presented to the board, I said, we spend 300 rupees per month on the tea and coffee that we serve to our employees. Do you think it makes sense to spend the same amount of money for an HR system? And the chairman laughed and said, this is definitely a new spin to what you are giving. But yeah, when you put it this way, 300 rupees per month per employee does not seem to be too high versus a crore of rupees that you want to spend. So contextually, you will have to change how you're presenting, what you're presenting, what are the metrics you're going to use. And there are times you will have to bat on behalf of that business. There are times you'll have to bat on behalf of your organization.
Arunji, I think the discussion is going in a very right direction, and I think it is hotting up. What I understand that the proposal making is not only the responsibility of the IT, but also every stakeholder has to contribute to it. And I think you also brought out that the CFO is also one of the major stakeholder who has to contribute and get convinced before go to the board. Do you think that this board management presentation is a perennial activity, or you do it on regular interval? Because you are presenting something to the board and you're interacting with them, and it is your capability to get it approved from them in the very first time.
So let me go back a little. It is not a good idea to only have a transactional relationship with the board, where you are only going to present to them your budget or asking for something. It will probably alienate you because this guy is only coming and asking for money and doing nothing else. Board is also finally a set of people with different capabilities, different experience, and they are trying to shape the organization in a way that it continues to move forward in the right direction. Each board member brings a different capability to the table. If you are going to be presenting to them, you have to not just be seen as somebody who's coming in with a proposal. You have to engage with them a lot more often. As an example, across many companies that I worked with, I used to keep on sending various white papers or various news items on the new shiny thing that has come in the market. As an example, many years back, people were talking about metaverse going to have a big impact on the organization. Today, people are talking about generative AI as the next big thing that matters. Almost all the members sitting there read the newspapers. They know what is happening. They may not necessarily be able to contextualize it within the organization, but they are aware. So you have to respect that, and you have to educate them on what is finally going to be the impact to the organization. This is where the tech leader has to be one step ahead of the board. Almost on a very frequent basis, probably a fortnightly, monthly, depends on how well you are connected to the rest of the ecosystem. Start sending them information about what is going to come and what is the likely impact of this to the organization. 25 years back, everyone was talking about e-commerce, being online, and some of the management gurus said if you are not online, if you are not on the internet, your business is going to die. Reality, not many businesses saw that kind of an impact. A lot of organizations thrived in the internet era. Then came various other shiny new things. Like I said, people were talking about 5G some time back. 5G is already here.
Yep.
What are people doing about it? There are use cases. There are a lot of hype that happened. It was important at that point of time for the CIO to educate not just the board but also the management to say, okay, this is what you are reading about. This is how I believe it's going to impact the organization. This is how I believe the industry is going to take it up. It is important for the board to see you as a tech leader and that you're on top of everything that is happening in the industry. Many years back, I was asked by one of the boards to present what is going to be the impact of blockchain in my organization. Blockchain was, at that point of time, the shiny new thing that everyone was talking about. So I made a 4-slide presentation, not too long, and I said, okay, this is what is blockchain in simple English. These are the kind of use cases people are talking about. Some of them have no relevance to our kind of industry or organization, but we will keep on experimenting and exploring to say what is likely to be the impact in the long term. Today, if you look at any new technology, it's important for the tech leader to make sure that he or she is on top of things, he or she is educating the management and the board proactively rather than a question being asked, hey Pratap, what is going to be the impact of XYZ technology on my organization? What are you doing about it? And that is very, very important towards making sure that boards see you as a subject matter expert and depend on your advice on whatever you are presenting to the board. So when you go to the board and you start talking about a certain proposal for a system, for any kind of technology, make sure that the business or businesses that are impacted by this are with you in the room. It's not just about a new technology getting implemented. A recent example I can give you, we are looking at investing in a demand planning system for one of the organizations. And here I was sitting on the board and the CIO wanted to present. The good thing the CIO did, he connected with me before the board meeting to say, Arun sir, what do you think I should be talking about? How do you think I should be making this proposal? Because this has been a discussion in the organization for more than 3 years. And we have not been able to successfully sell this to the management. So I helped him through the process of what matters. And I told him, you are not the only person who's going to present. You need to have the supply chain organization, you need to have the sales organization leaders present in that meeting, and they need to complement whatever you are saying. Because finally they will have to own up the results that come out of this system. The board looked at the proposal. Finally everyone looked at me to say, Arun, what do you think about this? Do you think it's a good enough proposal? Should we go ahead and invest? Because it's a reasonably large investment that the organization was looking at. And fortunately or unfortunately, whatever you might say, the board did not know about my side conversation with the CIO. So what the CIO did is something that I would encourage every person to do. Engage with somebody who you believe can be your ally in the board to make sure that they will be on your side when the proposal gets presented. We approved the proposal. We asked for one more critical piece of information. How are you going to execute it? Who will be the owner of this project? And in what timeline can we see the benefits? Which is something he was prepared for. And the good thing is, he didn't have to speak. The salesperson and the supply chain person, both of them said, we own this project. These are the benefits you will see in so much time frame. 2 board meetings later, when the system was live, again, IT did not have to come and present, but the business people actually said, we have gone live and these are the early results we are seeing. So he took everyone together and made sure the board is not just seeing this as an IT proposal, but seeing it as a business proposal which is co-partnered by IT.
Arunji, when you're discussing one thing coming to my mind rapidly that ROI, return on investment, any proposal or any budget, whatever actually we make to the board, always there should be in our mind that what will be the ROI of it. How do we actually calculate that ROI and make it a success story?
A very good question, Pratap. Because finally, everyone wants a return on whatever they are investing. The question is, how do you quantify it? And through the years, I have realized everything is quantifiable. You just have to look at it little differently. Let's take an example. We are going to spend 1 crore rupees on one of the new technologies. Who wants it? Who wants it? let's say the sales organization is saying, if I invest this 1 crore rupees, my life will be easier. I will be able to sell more to my customers. But nobody is going to put a number to that more in terms of what it is going to be. So we have to help, in this case, the sales organization to start going deeper on what is the current process, how will it change, will they be able to address a bigger number of customers, will they be able to expand the range of products that are sold to the customers, or what is going to change finally at the end of it. And in one proposal, finally my sales organization said that, okay, we are going to increase the revenue by 10% if we get this investment after it goes live across the organization. We went back to the board and presented 3% increase. A 3% increase meant the payback period is 18 months. A 10% would have meant it payback period is 6 months. Having said that, when we finally went live and we looked at what is attributable to the new technology system, we realized it was a lot more than even 10%. The impact was significantly higher, because people, when they are put in a position of risk, will always be conservative. And it is a good idea for the CIO to shoulder some of that risk and say, I'm willing to stand with you. I'm willing to help you reach your objective. Because if your customer wins, you will win. And that is important.
Absolutely.
For every CIO, every CTO to keep in mind. They exist not because of technology, they exist because the business needs them.
That is actually the customer head on the mind. That is what actually the success story lies with the organization and with the IT and the CIO.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Arunji, what I understand that the winning proposal, writing a winning proposal is not only about the technology or IT, but also summing up the entire landscape. And also we have to put in the newest technology into it. The adaptation to technology is very, very important for the CIO and CTO. They have to adapt it. You talk about chat GPT or AI or any kind of new technology which is just in the grooming around. We have to adapt that. And I think winning proposal also is to winning the heart of the board management. You have to keep on interacting with them on a regular basis. It is not that when you go to the boardroom only you interact with them, but also periodically you keep on sending them periodicals, some kind of information, updates, so that they know that what is happening around the technology and the processes. Then only you will be always in a winning mode on the board to get your proposal approved over there. So thank you Arunji for sharing your insight. I think the CIO community, the tech community will learn it from very well, and I think we'll all be gained out of it. Thank you very much for joining us, and look forward to interact with you more in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Pratap, for the pleasure,
Thank you very much.
for the invitation. I'm happy to help at any point of time. Should you think there's something else that you would want to talk about, please reach out.
Certainly, we will definitely, Arunji. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching us. And I think we have collected all your questions. Your questions will be answered suitably, and it will be mailed to you, and it will be given in a very short period of time. Thank you again. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.